Hey, what's up, guys? I'll tell you a little bit of a story. So way back when I was a real little kid, I used to spend a lot of time watching videotapes. This would have been in the basement of the old home that we used to live in. And one of my favorite tapes was a tape that had all sorts of cartoons on it. My parents had taped various times, I think mostly from the Disney Channel during one of those times back in the mid 80s when the Disney Channel was available temporarily for free. There were all sorts of cartoons on there that I watched over and over again. But the cartoons were taped on top of a tape of old baseball games. This would have been the 1986 World Series. I believe that we had part of Game 4 that was available, and then a big chunk of Game 6. And I can remember as a kid sitting back and watching those clips over and over again. The Game 6 one in particular started sometime, I believe, in the sixth inning and lasted through the end of the bottom of the ninth where the tape ran out, which meant, as you all know, that the best part of the game was missing. But I watched it time and time again when I was a kid, to the point where I've memorized a lot of what was being said. My father's told me that as a little boy, I used to run around talking about strawberry and rice, causing people to wonder if I was being undernourished. I wasn't, of course. I was interested in Darryl Strawberry and Jim Rice, two of the big heroes that played in those World Series games. I watched a lot of baseball back then. I think I watched the game of the week, but I'm not sure if I was cognizant of anything that was happening. It was all just sort of a fun fantasy world for me. That's kind of where it began. For me, sort of at a real deep level, the 1986 Mets sort of exemplify and are an emblem of what baseball really is and really could be. And so this is the reason why I'm sort of taking this project on. You may have noticed, especially from my blog, if you've been reading it, that we visited Flushing, New York back in August. My wife's from Taiwan, and we were hanging out in Chinatown, and we stayed in a hotel that was probably about 3 blocks away from Citi Field. And so I walked over there a couple of times. We didn't have enough money to go see a game, but I walked around and enjoyed it, saw things in the parking lot, took a bunch of pictures and stuff like that. And a thought came back to me that has come to me from time to time. I've wondered for quite some time what it would be like to take the great Mets team, not the 2023 Mets, but no, those 1986 Mets, and put them back in time and have them go back to 1962 and play. I mean, think about it. You got the 62 Dodgers, right? That had Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale. You had the 62 Giants, who ended up winning the pennant that year. You have a really strong Milwaukee Braves team. And you could stick the real New York Mets, the 86 Mets, in there in place of the New York Mets of 1962, which were one of the worst teams of all time, and just sort of see how they would do. Is this really one of the best teams of all time? Do they have what it takes to go along with this? Can they win this type of a league? Because it's a completely different challenge. The 86 Astros were a good team, as we know, but they probably were not quite as good as the 62 Giants or the 62 Dodgers. And so it is kind of a real interesting counterfactual history that we'll play along with. And so I decided to fire up OOTP, put on my hat, and give it a whirl. Now we'll go ahead here and take a look at OOTP. I've taken over as manager of the Mets, as you can see up here. And when we go through here and look at the team, look here at the home screen. We have everything set up the way that it needs to be. This is not the 62 Mets, it's the 86 Mets. You go over to meet the team, and who do we have? Lenny Dykstra, Keith Hernandez, Dwight Gooden, Sid Fernandez. We have Kevin Mitchell on here. We have Mookie Wilson is somewhere down here. There he is. So there's Mookie. And all of the players that you either love or hate from the 1986 Mets, they're all here. Now, there's a couple of caveats. We have to change a couple of things around to make us this project's going to work. For example, I'm not going to be able to, or I have transactions turned on, but not real life lineups. So I'm not going to be able to use the original lineups, but we will have transactions turned on. Now, you cannot take the 86 Mets transactions and import them into 1962 because OOTP is dumb. It won't do that. I could do it with other games, but not with this one. So what I've done is I've bought the 1986 Diamond Mine season, and we'll use the Mets transactions from that. We'll make a file with all of those, and we'll go through them one by one. I might also check up on those 62 transactions because I might not fully trust what OOTP does. I'm in commissioner mode. I can make the changes as I need. So sorry, Mookie, but you're going to be injured at the beginning of the season, as was the case in real life. I also have to make sure that the Mets don't bring on some of the 1962 Mets by accident. A couple of other things that will be different. I've spent quite a bit of time watching original film. I watched a number of documentaries about the Mets. I know the lineup pretty well. We're going to try to follow the lineup as best as we can, and we'll try to mess around with the pitching rotation. I can't promise that we're going to have, Gary Carter play first base and Kevin Mitchell play shortstop, but if needs be, we might do that. It depends on what happens. It depends on how crazy this is. One other thing to note, when this is probably going to be controversial, is that we're not going to be playing in Shea Stadium. Instead, what I've decided to do is I've decided to have the best of all worlds. So the 62 Mets, of course, played in the Polo Grounds. We're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to have them play in Citi Field. But not just any Citi Field. We're going to use the old Citi Field, the 2009-2011 version, the one that was a real pitcher's park. We're going to use that version just to sort of see what happens, to see if it makes it any more difficult for us, to see if it gives us an advantage or another team an advantage, to see maybe if it helps Dwight Gooden, overcome the relatively bad year that he had in 1986. So that's what we're going to do. This is sort of a secret replay. It's going to be an evening replay. All uploads will be in the evening. We're just going to go through all the Mets games one at a time. You can expect to see 162 episodes. We'll make some other videos sort of about this replay that we'll intersperse here and there alongside normal videos as we normally do. Nothing is changing from the other projects. We're going to keep them up. This is sort of a for fun type thing. It's a sort of replay nobody does anymore, right? We got to do more replays like this, more projects that are really interesting and just fun. Just kind of put it out there and see what happens. And there are a couple other things that we've changed here and there that might be a little bit interesting to you, and we'll go over that when we come across it. Reports and information now. We want to go and take a look here at the preseason predictions for this league. My apologies. I know this is way, way too small. The New York Mets are projected to finish 2.5 games out of first place in the end, 98-63. This is despite having one of the best teams of all time right behind the Los Angeles Dodgers. So that's what it looks like, and they think that their pitching is going to be better than ours. The Dodgers are the team that we're most concerned with. The Giants, however, as you know, were very good in 1962. I did an automatic replay version of this, and the Mets beat out the Giants by less than, I think it was a full game actually in the end, barely beating them out of the last game of the season. So that's another possibility. Interestingly enough, the Tigers are picked to finish above the 62 Yankees, which is not what they would have said at all in real life. So we'll pay some attention to that. We'll see what we can figure out and see if we can't get these Mets to beat those teams. It's going to be a little different here than it normally is for my replay, right? I'm probably going to relax a little bit more. We're going to have a little bit more rooting for the team than we usually do in the projects that I've had before. It's going to be sort of a different feel and a different type thing. If it's not your thing, it's fine. You can go watch other content that I've created. But if you're like me and you're really geeky about this stuff, you might like it. Stick around and sort of see what we have going on. And above all else, of course, what we're going to be checking is OOTP and how OOTP deals with situations like this, right? There's so many YouTube videos out there with OOTP saves that are just, I took control of this team, I'm the GM, and everything's played in the background. We're not doing that here. We're playing through every game. We're going to play through every game with the full pitch-by-pitch mode turned on. We're going to play through it with all the full animations. This is going to be sitting down and watching the Mets play as if it were on TV. Well, not fully. I can't resurrect Tim McCarver and Ralph Kiner and have them come over here and give you the play-by-play. But, I'll do my best to try to make it fun and make it interesting. So come join us for this. This is going to be a fun journey. And if this works the way that I think it will, we'll probably have more projects like this as well. This is the secret project, by the way. You're not going to read about it on my blog. This is for YouTube only, just because I like you guys. So we'll talk to you later then, huh? Bye.